Hi, thank you for tuning in today. My name is Heather Geist. I am the Education and Outreach Manager of the Farmington River Watershed Association, and I would like to take a few minutes today to talk about chloride pollution in our waterways. I'd like to talk about the effects of this pollution, a little bit about what's causing it, and some mitigation efforts that are being used to help curb the issue. Here in the United States, the chloride pollution in our waterways is coming from road salts that we use in the wintertime to keep our roads safe for travel. Not until very recently have scientists been noticing that this is becoming an increasing problem for us. Our road salts that we use are very important for public safety. However, they do wash into our waterways from stormwater runoff as well as from snowmelt after the wintertime. This can contaminate our surface waters for a very long time after the salts are applied. This chloride in our waterways can be bad for aquatic life, including plants and animals. This can contaminate our groundwater and drinking water resources, and it can also degrade our infrastructure, such as our concrete and steel. High chloride levels in the waterways can be bad for plants and animals alike, fish, aquatic insects, and amphibians, as well as some of the plants that live along roadsides, not just the ones that are living in our waterways. This chloride can also go into groundwater if it's in stormwater that's going over land. It can contaminate our drinking wells, and it can also possibly make pets and animals sick if they eat too much of this chloride. There have been studies that have shown the effects of chloride in our waterways. You can see here after a study in the University of Toledo, after 25 days of growth in these two road salt environments, one with none and one with very high road salt, you can see that the fish in the environment with high chloride concentration has really not grown nearly as much. Chloride concentrations can also cause death and reproductive issues for aquatic organisms. We're finding out recently also that even in the warm weather, when we are not applying these road salts, there can be a lot of issues with chloride contamination. What happens in the summer when it is raining less is that rivers and streams actually pull groundwater into them to help keep everything flowing and keep the animals in the river alive. But sometimes if there is salt contamination in this groundwater, then that groundwater being pulled back into the river is bringing that salt back into the river as well. So what we're actually seeing fairly recently is that sometimes in the summer we can actually have higher chloride concentrations in our waterways than we do in the winter right after the salt is applied. Furthermore, there have been studies such as one at the Stroud Water Research Center that show that aquatic insects actually can be more affected by these road salts in the summer, warmer water temperatures. These insects are very important food for trout and other fish and organisms that live in these waterways. So it's not just a winter problem, even though we're only putting down our salt in the wintertime. A little bit on the types of road salts that we use and the ways that we get chloride into our stream. The chloride-based de-icers are the most widely used of all the de-icers really on the market because they're the least expensive and they are very easy to get. There are several kinds, as you can see here. Basically, a lot of what determines what a municipality or a contractor will use would be the temperature of the air and the water. Some of these compounds work at much lower temperatures, which is very necessary in certain parts of the United States. There are a variety of non-chloride based de-icers. They generally are more expensive and not as readily available, and oftentimes don't work quite as well as the chloride based de-icers. These can come from all sorts of sources. They can be byproducts of manufacturing and factory, just as cheese brine and pickle juice. There are different acetates that you can use, which are often sold as pet safe road salts in your local big box home improvement warehouses. Also sand, which was used for a very long time before we were using strictly salt. Unfortunately, it has a tendency to clog up not only our catch basins and our stormwater systems, but it can also cause problems in the waterways when we get too much sand in there. Some advantages of some of these is that they do work to very low temperatures, which can be very useful. Some other non-chloride based de-icers, there's a whole lot of them. There's a lot of pros and cons when it comes to choosing these. Oftentimes, a contractor or a municipality will choose to use a non-chloride based de-icer in conjunction with chloride based de-icers. This helps to cut costs, but also cut on the negative environmental impact. But it's all very dependent on the location, especially regarding the climate and the temperatures that will be reached in the wintertime. The process of anti-icing is a slightly newer idea. It's about stopping the formation of an ice barrier with the pavement before the extreme weather happens. So anti-icing happens before a storm event. It's a proactive control method. And what happens is some kind of a brine or a mix of salt and water essentially is applied to the roads before the snow event, which is supposed to help keep ice from bonding with the pavement. You can see in this picture here the white lines that are left after this sort of process. You may have seen these in your town. Again, it prevents the bonding of the snow and ice to the pavement, which can be very useful. It kind of helps to stop the problem before it even starts when it comes to slippery sidewalks and asphalt. It minimizes frost. Anti-icing can be effective for multiple storm events if it is done correctly, and generally requires less use of road salts, which is also very helpful as far as cost and as far as the ecological impacts. Anti-icing also doesn't necessarily just require a brine. You can use a heated or modified pavement or road coverings. These are also anti-icing methods. So when it comes to ways that we can mitigate the problem, definitely talking with your municipality if you're concerned. Talk to your Department of Public Works and ask them what kind of measures they're taking to help reduce the amount of chloride in our waterways. Are they using anti-icing techniques? Are they trying to supplement their salt with a certain chemical that may make it stickier to help it bond to the road so it bounces off less often? These are things that may be worth knowing, and it might be worth letting your municipality know that this sort of thing is available. What you can do at home here is keep track of what you're doing on your sidewalks and on your driveway when it comes time to use these road salts. Shoveling is always the best, but of course, it can still get slippery out there. It's always great to keep to keep in mind that a 12-ounce coffee mug is enough salt to treat your entire driveway if you have a 20-foot 2-car driveway, or it can treat 10 sidewalk squares. When you scatter your salt, you want to make sure that it's scattered and not just dumped into piles. Road salts and sodium chloride can actually work better against frost and ice when they have more room to work. So putting it in a pile will actually make it less effective than scattering, as you'll see in the picture here on the left. Another thing you can do is after your storm events, sweep up whatever salt is left over so you can reuse it again. And so that if there is water that collects in that area, it won't dissolve that salt and bring it back into the ground. Also, in lower temperatures, when you get lower than 15 degrees, you would like to use a different kind of salt or de-icer, or just use sand for traction, because our regular sodium chloride that we use doesn't work as well below 15 degrees. Another way to help out with the salt problem is to actually volunteer. FRWA last year got into the Isaac Walton League of America's Salt Watch program. We are now a partner, and what we do with that is we help monitor chloride in our streams. This is a citizen science volunteer program that helps us understand a lot about how chloride is getting into our waters and what's happening with it. This sort of data is used to help with decision making and to help provide educational tools to municipalities and contractors about smart salt use. You can visit saltwatch.org if you would like to be a part of this program, and you can volunteer. They'll send you a free kit so that you can sample a waterway near your house. It's usually done in the winter time, although they like to have data from all year round. And a few more resources here for everyone. This is the Isaac Walton League of America Salt Watch page up here, as well as some other resources that you can find in Minnesota and Wisconsin. Also in the top left corner here, we have the Connecticut Green Snow Pro training. This is offered by UConn's T2 Technical Training Center for municipalities and private salt applicators. There are a lot of ways that you can help calibrate machines or change what you're using as de-icers, or even starting anti-icer programs. Lots of resources over there at the Green Snow Pro, and they do workshops as well. Thank you very much for tuning in, and be salt smart.